This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
For the last recording of the year, we're going to do Veins of Gold from the outside. The darkness comes in and then the light comes out, and that is how we are going to leave you for 2025, heading into solstice and Christmas and New Year's and seeing you sometime in January. This is how we're ending. We're ending on a big burst of light coming out of the darkness, which is, I think, a feeling we would all like to have at this point, based on our pre-recording chatter.
Well, and this is the moment where Perrin catches up, right? I mean, not obviously Brandon has gone forward since then, but this is where we get to exit a gathering storm, because we've still kind of been in a gathering storm with Perrin.
Right, yeah, totally.
And only now does he sort of get past the final moment of a gathering storm and get to be in this book in the way that he should have been.
He's in this book now, halfway through, and Perrin has finally rejoined this book. Love that.
This is kind of like in math when you get to like algebra 2 and they go, what do you remember from algebra 1? And you go, nothing. And so they have to like reteach you most of algebra 1 in the first semester to get you caught up and then cover all of algebra 2 in the second semester.
Yep. That sounds about right.
Yep. That's about what we're doing in this book. Perrin 1 and Perrin 2.
Ah, boy.
Which is why there's so much Perrin, which we're so excited about.
I will say I do really enjoy the nightmare training sequence. I do actually enjoy it every time that he goes into a nightmare and has to deal with the nightmare. I really do enjoy those parts, and this is our first nightmare, so I am excited for that.
This is where I think Sanderson is writing at his peak, because
Yes.
he's exploring the magic system of the world of dreams, Tel'aran'rhiod. And yeah, it's just good writing. I enjoy this part. It's got both the training montage that Perrin gets that we've been waiting for forever, and the Veins of Gold from the outside perspective, which I think is a well done, well written chunk.
Yeah, so it's going to be short and sweet today as we roll out of this year. And we're going to start with Fael. This is chapter 30. Men dream here with the wolf symbol, because that excellent line, men dream here, is from Hopper. And like we said, it's the nightmare sequence. So it's definitely a wolfy symbol time.
I think it could also be a double entendre when you talk about like Rand's Veins of Gold and the dreams of what men could be, and sort of like that sort of, what is Rand dreaming of, right? Men dream here.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Also the fact that the wolves are very focused on the last hunt comes or not, which is very much a Rand, like they are all focused on Rand. And yeah, this man who is one with the land, who is the dragon, is dreaming. He's literally like having such an intense experience it transcends into the dream space. I like that.
And this is also really where the idea that this is almost the more important battle than the last battle, right? Like we either fight the last battle or we do not. That's the binary. And like winning or not winning the last battle doesn't seem to matter as much, right? Because like they've lost the last battle before, and it's been, an age of darkness and terror and awfulness, right? But then the wheel turns again.
Life goes on,
right? So it doesn't feel like losing the last battle, right, is necessarily the end of humanity. However, if Rand had decided to end the Earth, right, that's where they're like the last battle or nothing. They never make that statement about the last battle itself.
Right, the last battle is not for existence. It's for who gets to dictate what existence looks like. This is the battle for, do we exist at all or not?
Because I've said this before, but I believe once Rand enters the last battle, the Dark One cannot win. He's lost that battle every single time. Because there's only one battle across all the ages, right? He's at the hub. He only ever fights one battle. That's why he can be tricked. It's all the battles happening all across all times, all at the same time.
Right. The last battle is follow through for the real world that exists around this like core central thing. These are all the emergent properties that reality has to propagate in order to like express what happened. But what happened has already happened.
Right. It's the, this is, you see this in The Matrix, you see this in a lot of other things where the hero has to make a choice, right? And there's still a battle to be fought, there's still an enemy to be defeated, but that choice is really the important moment, right? Like, when does Neo save Trinity or not?
Right.
Right? That's the choice he has to make. And that's the moment when really everything is determined. And the same thing with Rand here. Rand on the mountaintop makes that choice. And that's really when the battle is won or lost.
Right. But reality would be boring if it was compressed to the point of everything happening all at once, right? That's the Big Bang, right? That's everything's happening all at once. There's nothing different, right? We live in a world where things are different, where there's a fourth dimension, where time matters. And so we get the last battle, because how else are you going to express such a cosmic choice as loving again, With a whole lot of murder. That's how.
Have I told you I'm convinced that we live in a 7-dimensional world, not a 4-dimensional world? We just label our dimensions wrong.
Yes, you were making this argument several episodes ago. I do remember this.
And I know it's just a labeling thing, right? Because when you describe up and down, right, that's not one dimension, that's two. Up is positive vertical and down is negative vertical.
I do not have the math and engineering qualifications to tell you you're full of shit or not.
Right. I mean, I'm sure somebody out there is telling me why I'm wrong, but I'm like, wait, forward, back, left, right, up, down. That's 6 directions, and then forward in time, because we can't go backwards in time, so that's a 7th direction.
I'm sure quantum mechanics has something to say about that, but I'm not qualified.
Or else we live in a 3.5 dimension world, right? Because we got all the space-time dimensions in half of time, because you can only go forward.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Tell me why I'm wrong, please. Write me a message. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Lotspoilers@gmail.com.
Yeah.
He will read the email, I promise.
Yeah, I will.
All right. To come to a much less interesting thing that's actually in the books, we are starting the chapter with Chafail reporting to Fail about how the White Cloaks are existing. And it opens with the really funny observation that apparently White Cloaks are just as susceptible to boobs as any other all-male unit in the military. It's just you walk in there with some boobs and pretty soon you have all the information that you need.
Yeah.
And I think that's really funny because the White Cloaks seem to be a very a monastic order. We don't care about that sort of thing. But according to these women...
That's something that's never fully answered. What are the celibacy rules of the White Cloaks? I mean, it seems like they have no problem raping.
True. There's no one getting in trouble for doing sexual assault because it breaks a vow of celibacy. That doesn't seem to be a thing. So,
but we don't see a lot of family men.
No, there's an implication that only unmarried men are in it. It's not like the Younglings where we actually see it on the page that they only accept unattached men, but it certainly is implied.
Right.
Yeah, and Galad never talks about being celibate as part of he doesn't critique it as part of his being inducted into the order or say that, well, that was never in the book. It just isn't addressed. But it reads like a celibate monastic order.
Yes.
It's coded that way, and yet the evidence would suggest no.
It's because there's no families traveling with them. There's no women traveling with them. They don't even have a home base where their families could be situated, right?
Right. There's never any worry about them having hostages that, are their children.
Right.
Yeah, there's never any mention of children at all.
I mean, to be honest, the real world comparison that's coming to mind right now is ICE, right? A bunch of young, unmarried men who maybe have families at home but are hiding their identity and just keeping them remote.
I mean, technically we do have the elder and junior Bornhald, but they are singular.
True. Yeah, so he would have had to have children.
Yeah, that's how junior Bornhald comes into existence, is elder Bornhald getting it on with someone and then deciding to raise the child in such a way that he would choose to follow his father into the quote-unquote service.
Yeah, I think what I'm picturing is a bunch of people who have families at home and only come home every once in a while.
Yeah, and maybe you're right. It mostly recruits from younger men, and there's no known rule that children can't leave the order. Again, it's sort of vaguely implied that once you join up, you're there forever, but there's no actual on-page evidence that they can't just decide to retire and go back to, baking or whatever it is that their wife's been doing in the meantime, or get settled down because I have arthritis and I don't want to ride around on a horse terrorizing people anymore. Now I want to settle down and have a family. There's no rule against that as far as we know.
But at the same time, the way they treat families and villages, it's hard to imagine them having families. It's this catch-22 of I'm guessing some of them do have families, but it's a vast minority. These are second, third, fourth, fifth sons of nobility. Probably not a lot of marriage opportunity.
It's true. Who wants to get together with a violent, roving asshole? Not that many people.
I don't know. People date cops all the time.
Ugh, God, don't remind me. So weird. So real.
What have I heard? Cops and pilots and basically people who are heroes. Also people who are remote and travel a lot because opportunity breeds.
Yeah. Also like soldiers and sailors.
Yeah.
Truckers, right? There's lots of jobs where you're not around very often, but you are still technically having a family. So I guess we could assume that some of the white cloaks are doing that.
Hey, some of them might have multiple families, and it's a lot easier to maintain multiple families if you're on.
I mean, one in every city, right?
Yeah, exactly, right.
No, that's definitely a real thing. Having a different family in different ports of call around the Pacific Ocean, that's a thing. So anyway, the White Cloaks don't have a lot of access to women and are interested in them enough that Cha-Fael was easily able to lift some information just by, showing a little cleavage.
Which is just everything we already know about the White Cloaks, right? Like some of them don't necessarily like everything Galad is doing, but they're willing to put up with it. They mostly respect him.
Yeah, I mean, Fael's doing the kind of intel gathering that a Borderlander wife should, right? What is the relationship between this commander and his men? What are the fracture lines and strengths that we can work with there? And, they're willing to follow him even when he makes choices that they disagree with. That's really valuable information given, her whole job as a Borderlander wife. It never comes into play in this plot, but she's still doing the proactive wifely things that she says she's going to be doing. There's an interesting little commentary, I guess, about the women's relationship to feminine clothes, right? The one immediately hops back into her pants and breeches. The other one is lingering in her skirts and enjoying that. And I don't know if that's just fun character detail to make them different or if there's some sort of weird commentary on cross-dressing. I don't quite have the brain power to parse it out, but I noticed that the characters are at least being differentiated by their relationship to the quote-unquote cross-dressing that Cha-Fael is doing.
Well, now if I remember Lucille correctly, wasn't she the one who tried to seduce Rand and got smacked down?
No, is she the leader of Cha-Fael? Because it's the one who becomes the leader of Cha-Fael that Rand did that to, and I'm forgetting the name, if it was Lucille or... No,
she's just a member. Yeah, no, it is Selenda.
It's Selenda. Okay, the other one of these two. Not Lucille, but the other one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So that's why Selenda changes right back into breeches.
Oh, she's got a more negative relationship to using her femininity as a weapon.
Because of the issue with Rand.
Ah, okay. That makes some sense.
So
sure.
This is a reference back to that scene when she is sent to seduce Rand. She is then frightened. She no longer wants to wear dresses because of that situation and relationship.
That seems like a very simple explanation, but also I think you're right that that's what that is supposed to be referencing. I'm going to put the blame for that on Sanderson.
Yeah, I think it's a good callback. I think it's a good callback for that character to be like, what is this character's history? Oh, she had this encounter with Rand. She's going to want to get out of the dress ASAP.
Right, whereas Lucille has a more neutral relationship to going back and forth.
Yeah, she's like, oh yeah, I used to wear dresses. That was nice. I'll wear them for a little while longer.
Yeah, no, I like that.
We get Daniel Lewin, who we know was supposed to be the fourth boy originally, is in charge of the Two Rivers men.
Which is why he gets to be Tam's replacement when he mysteriously vanishes. So it's a little consolation prize for being the fourth boy.
Marzipan, that's a good point. Putting the blame on Colliver for sending her to Rand rather than Rand for scaring her. Sure.
Right, because Rand is trying to get back at Colliver and push back on Colliver. Like, Selenda is not the problem. So yes, it is Colliver's fault, for sure. But Rand is the mechanism by which Colliver's fault was enacted. So yeah, basically, Fael has set up a contingency plan for if the trial goes badly, that Perrin can fight if he wants, but not in the tent that will become a death trap. And Daniel is like, I am second in command to Tam, so I'm going to agree with you about protecting Perrin. And that's basically the point of the POV, is just that Fael is shoring stuff up behind Perrin, behind his back.
And making a plan to basically haul his ass out of there in case he's found guilty, right? Whether he wants to or not, he's being rescued by his men.
Right, because he cannot mount an effective defense if he's in that tent. And they try to take him into custody.
And also, Fael also doesn't believe that he would put up a defense.
Also
right?
that.
She's thinking he might just be like, okay, yeah, sure, take me. That's why she's like, no matter what he says, you're going to rescue him.
Yeah. And the Ashaman are totally on board. They're like, she's got everyone except Perrin in on this plan, you know?
Mm-hmm. And we get a little sort of retrospective on what they did during the Bubble of Evil, where they just, blasted their weapons out of the air with air and went around like basically taking care of that whole quadrant by saving people.
Yeah, which apparently did a lot of damage to the weapons, and that's part of the reason why Perrin wanted a delay, was because, like, if we are going to fight the White Cloaks, we need to not be down by a quarter of our weaponry, because the Ashaman were exploding everything.
It's a good Bubble of Evil. I still feel like it's just Sanderson stalling more. He's like, oh shit, I had to write another little segment in here of Perrin witnessing the veins of gold, and I have to... He stalled so much on writing it earlier that it feels like he had to delay them with another Bubble of Evil. And to do 2 delays with 2 Bubbles of Evil, I always felt like that was a little weak writing. To have them delayed by the snakes and make that why they can't teleport, and now have them delayed by another Bubble of Evil that does the weapons thing. Like, can you... I know there's Taviraness involved, and that's just a way to say, oh, the writer needs this to happen. But
I mean, my charitable interpretation is that it says that they're happening more frequently across the whole world, which we do know from rumors that, like, these incidents are increasing in frequency, but it's still kind of weak when it's obviously just a delaying tactic. You know, that's just me being charitable.
But that takes us to the POV switch of Perrin.
Yeah, so now we get to the Perrin that we've been expecting for umpteen chapters, where he is switching back and forth between Young Bull and Perrin as needed and learning the delicate dance and balance. Like, this is what we were expecting the whole goddamn time. We're finally here.
I want to play the Rocky music in the background. Dun, 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 dun. That was a terrible rendition of it. Please cut in something that actually resembles the Rocky music.
Will do.
If you could. Okay, I appreciate that. But yeah, this is the training montage, right? This is the moment when he's, you see him struggling a little bit in the beginning, and then he does it again, he's a little bit better, and then he finally makes it up the steps the whole way, and he's, raising his arms above his head, and, so he starts out basically doing normal training, right? And he's pretty good at that, but he needs to get better faster.
Right.
So Hopper says, let's do nightmares.
Yeah, he's doing all kinds of cool, impossible, neat stuff, but he's struggling with things that he knows he needs to be moving past. And so Hopper says, well, we can go hard mode if you want. I mean, it's scary, but we can go hard mode. And Perrin says, let's go hard mode. And there's this moment where he's finding the balance. He's got Fail as his home and his anchor, and that lets him extend his power outwards while still anchoring himself to Fail. So that's what he sort of starts thinking about. And he's learning the mechanic of it's not how the air should be, it's how the air was, right? Like, he's learning that mental trick, which builds up to it's just a weave. It's
just a weave, right? And I like this sentence. It seemed that somehow the more confident he became in the wolf dream, the more comfortable he became with himself in the waking world.
I
think he's got cause and effect backwards, right? But that's the more comfortable he's becoming with his ability to find balance in the real world, the better he is at controlling the wolf dream.
There's so many logical analogies to that, right? If you get more confident in one part of your life, it will probably translate to others. There's just and then it's a feedback loop, right? Because then as you get more confident in your very public facing life, then you get more confident in the more private parts of your life. And like, there's a feedback loop. And it totally makes sense to me that as he doesn't hold back and shame himself in the one respect, he's not holding himself back and shaming himself in other respects, right?
They jump through a couple of different landscapes. I couldn't find any real clues. They're in a jungle and then an open plain with scrub. Like, it's just we're somewhere in the world.
It's just montage time.
Yeah, montage. They run up the side of Mesa, right? So they're like running up a vertical cliff, ignoring the direction of gravity, all that kind of stuff. Like bending the rules of reality to your perception rather than what the world actually is.
Right. And then Hopper does the, Jesus thing where he's just sitting on top of the water while Perrin is like struggling with the mind game of like being on the water. And Hopper's just like, you just be on top of the water. It's very simple. But yeah, it's just we're getting a sense for how malleable the rules are, especially to a wolf that doesn't have a formal education limiting him on what he thinks should and shouldn't work.
Now, do I think that Perrin had a lot of this figured out before Sanderson started writing these books? Yes.
Yes.
He demonstrated the ability to do a lot of this stuff, and this relearning is a little bit of restart and relearn something you already know. But I'm willing to put up with it in the contextualization of he's finding balance, whereas before he was just kind of doing it instinctively.
Yeah, winging it versus knowing what you're doing are different experiences, for sure. And so, yeah, then we go to a place where men dream here, right? We go to Camelin. Now we're going to a location that actually has meaning to the rest of the plot. And this is a place where you will find nightmares because people have nightmares when they sleep. And there's a lot of people here.
They did check out the dome first. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. They check out the dome.
Dome's still there. He's wondering why it's not on Dragonmount. It's because Slayer's not trying to trap wolves. He's trying to trap Perrin and the White Cloaks. Right.
Right.
And he's waiting for the White Cloaks to leave to spring the trap on Perrin.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and the whole thing about, expectations, like if you're following somebody, don't rely on your expectations because they can trick you.
Yeah, it's really important to be prepared for anything if you go leaping into the void.
And we've seen nightmares before, right, with Egwene.
Never a wild nightmare. We've seen her teachers use nightmares on her, but that was entirely under their control. I don't think she ever encountered one of these freewheeling ones.
I thought there was stay away from those. That's a nightmare situation.
I don't recall that. Oh, no. No, the time with the eyes to die. The time with the eyes to die in the tower. So Egwene had to have learned that from the wise ones in order to tell Nynaeve and Elaine about it. So I'm just forgetting that scene because we did have the nightmare in the tower and it was a known quantity when it happened.
Yeah, and Elaine's saying, the corridor. Think of the corridor. The corridor. So, I can picture. I can hear Kate Redding yelling, "Think of the corridor."
Which means that Elaine had to have learned that from Egwene. Which means that Egwene had to have had some kind of scene with the wise ones where we got that information, and I'm just totally blanking on when that happened right now.
I'm pretty sure it was just book 4 training montage.
Yeah, a little brief blip of a line that normally I can remember stuff like that, but apparently today is not that day.
Yeah, because you have wise ones saying like men are evil, men create evil dreams, and sometimes it stays. Like I have that in my head of a wise one telling Egwene that.
Yeah, I'm just totally spacing. Oh well.
Sorry, quick Google.
Never apologize for being brown, Aja.
And nothing's popping up easily. I'd have to do more research than I want to do right now. All right, so yeah, there's this whole moment where he basically thrusts himself into the dream.
Hopper finds him a dream and says, "Go in. You will not last long your first time. I will come for you." He's like, "Just go in and get your ass kicked, but I'll wrestle you out before you get killed." And he says, "Remember, it is not. Remember, it is false." Remember, it is not is definitely like the core of it's just a weave.
There is no spoon.
There is no spoon. Absolutely.
In this case, there is no evil dragon reborn.
Yeah. I love the fact that he stumbles into just some random dream. And of course, it's about Rand. And he's like, wait, I know that guy. Like it helps him prick it.
Rand is on everybody's mind, right? This is the last battle, the Dragon Reborn. He has affected almost every nation on the country. Even the Shan-Chan, he's the number one enemy to the Shan-Chan, and they control half the continent.
He's the bogeyman for the evil guys and the good guys. Everyone's scared of him.
Everyone's scared of him.
He's not on anyone's team, Everyone's terrified.
Except like Perrin and, I was going to say Matt, but even Matt's like scared of him.
Yeah, but like a core group of like 10 people who have known him forever. Everyone else on every possible alignment is scared of him. And it also kind of reminds me of book 3, when the Forsaken are having the dreams about the sword and like the whole city is being taken up in like his, obsession dreams about Rand taking the sword. It's kind of like that, but at an even bigger scale,
yeah.
Right? Just like everyone's afraid of Rand. And so Rand as a Taviran presence is overrepresented in their nightmares and daymares and every other kind of imagination run wild kind of thing.
I mean, I think we just figured out that was Bilal casting his dream net weaving thing and causing his dreams to be unshielded out for everybody.
Right. But it just feels like that again, it's just like when people's dreams are all focused on Rand, it feels significant, which given what happens in this chapter, it's extra significant. It's foreshadowing for like, no, Rand is going to be important. Even though you're focusing on a training montage right now, you're going to have to go do a Rand thing in a hot sec.
I think it's also really good foreshadowing to how the nightmare is used in the battle against Slayer in the dream.
How so?
Well, I mean, that's how he destroys he takes the talisman into the dream, into the nightmare, and uses the Dragonmount, the lava in Dragonmount, the fictional lava of Dragonmount.
Right, because he goes up there and sees the lava lake. It's kind of top of mind when that other I hadn't even thought of that, but you're right. How would he know there's a lava lake up there unless he'd literally seen it, as he does in this chapter?
And just using nightmares to fight, right? That's where the training, that's the dangerous situation that he thrusts them both into to even the odds, because he's trained there.
Oh yeah, it's not Dragonmount in that final nightmare. It's just a generic.
No, it's Dragonmount.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I can't wait till we get to that one. That's a really good action sequence.
Definitely. Yeah, the fight between Perrin and Slayer. Love that.
That's such a good battle.
It's such an anime battle.
I don't care. I love it.
but it's so well done. Yeah, no, it's the part where I'm like, oh yeah, Sanderson writes really good, really visual battles. That's why that's the part that I'm really happy that he's writing the end of these books about.
100%. So yeah, Perrin is in this dream and he's in the woods. He goes into an alley and then it turns into the moonlit woods, very like Eye of the World, running away from Shadar Logoth kind of looming. And then there's this woman who's running away from a big scary monster and he tries to protect her and then she calls the monster the Dragon Reborn, and it starts to break up a little bit, and then Hopper shows up and finishes the process that Perrin's realization started, right? Perrin gets a tiny little patch of alleyway formed around him, and then Hopper chooses at that point to come in and like finish the transformation and pop the bubble that is the nightmare. It's kind of like a bubble of evil, but a more natural mechanic than bubbles of evil are. Right.
These are, I mean, if you think of bubbles of evil as nightmares created by the Dark One and the pattern as his Tel'aran'rhiod, right? The thing that contains him.
Your theory continues to hold weight. Yeah. No, they really are. Bubbles of evil are nightmarish, and that's not an analogy.
Mm-mm. In a lot of ways, since the Dark One is the evil inside of people, right? There's this like... Yeah, a good parallel there.
So Hopper is proud of Perrin. You did well, foolish cub, right? Very sweet.
Is there ever a moment where Perrin is stronger than Hopper? Because I feel like that's usually, there's that moment when you have the training montage where like the sensei is kicking your butt and like you can't grab the grasshopper out of his hand or whatever, or the coin out of his hand. And there's that in the beginning, they're trying and failing. Is there a moment where Hopper struggles with a nightmare and Perrin comes in and dismisses it?
Not the nightmares, but Perrin does continue onward up the mountain past where Hopper can continue in this chapter. I think that might be the closest we get. But that doesn't quite feel like what you're talking about, because it's not like it's a challenge that Hopper set to him, which is sort of the point of what you're talking about.
Right.
We'll see if we find one of those, but I don't recall that moment happening, aside from this.
Because for me, it's like, why doesn't Hopper just take down Slayer? Hopper's such a powerful user of the dream world. It feels like he alone could do it, you know. And at some point, you have to prove to me that Perrin's better at this than Hopper was, or else the taking down of Slayer doesn't make a lot of sense. And the way he justifies it is, I'm a human. I can think about like something I'm not, whereas the wolves can only think like wolves.
Yeah, which is, I guess, good enough as an explanation, but it feels a little lacking. Like humans are just better is not satisfying emotionally.
Yeah. Well, he's a human and a wolf, so he can think like both. But he does say, I'm human, and therefore I can think like something I'm not. Whereas it seems to imply that wolves can only think like wolves, which is not...
That's not really
what
true.
I feel like... Yeah, it's not what Jordan was writing the wolves to be like.
And also, it's not really super in keeping with what we know about animal intelligence, canine and otherwise. Like, that feels like a very old and simple way of understanding animal intelligence and sort of human-centric.
Especially when you up the intelligence of wolves.
Yeah, not what Jordan was writing. Jordan was writing a very different kind of spirit guide type creature, not just talking doggos. I mean, not that I don't love a good talking doggo. Like, don't get me wrong, but Jordan had something else to say, I think.
So during this whole sort of conversation, Hopper keeps turning to look at Dragonmount.
Right. And mentioning the last hunt. It comes or it does not.
And Perrin's like, you mean now? Like right now? And Hopper's like, yeah, dude, I don't know what you're doing, but yeah, it's the end of the world. So you want to come check it out with me? Like,
yeah, you want to come get front row seats to the end of the world or not?
It really does feel kind of like, okay, Wolf, that's a little too casual. Like, I know you're casual about reality, but like, interrupt your training montage to be there for the end of the world that all the other wolves have been preparing for and gathering for weeks now.
I mean, Perrin is a very focused person. You know, he's really tunnel visioned in, well, you know, yeah, Hopper keeps checking his phone, being like, oh, the missiles have launched. Ooh, yeah.
We can see whether they are going to hit us or not. And Perrin's like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
And then we get into the discussion about, you know, a choice must be made to fight the last hunt or not. And
this is, yeah, some of my favorite. A choice must be made, young bull. One path leads to the last hunt, and the other? Hopper didn't respond immediately. He turned toward Dragonmount. The other path does not lead to the last hunt. Yes, but what does it lead to? To nothing.
Not defeat. Nothing.
Nothing. Not the Dark One winning.
Not miserable life in servitude. Not pain. Not suffering.
The end of the wheel. The only way that the Dark One can win.
Literally nothing. Absence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, and you can come to this moment and it justifies everything about why Rand was hunted and not killed throughout the first few books.
Right.
So often the Dark has the opportunity to kill him, and they don't. Because all killing him does is mean, oh yeah, you might win this cycle.
Right. Killing him just cycles the thing around.
It's just another cycle.
You have to get him to the point of choosing absence instead of presence. That's different than just killing him.
And much harder to do. And that's why it's bring him pain, let the Lord of Chaos rule, don't kill him. Like, those are all, for the most part, you know, I mean, there's a point where Ishamael, after being killed the second time, in book 3, he wants to kill Rand, right? There's that one moment where the Dark actually wants to kill Rand. And that's why we don't see Rand in that book. Because he's in hiding.
Because he's like, nope, I'm going to nope out of that.
But for the rest of the series, the Dark is pretty much protecting Rand, especially after crossing the streams when Moradin realizes they're linked. That there's a moratorium on trying to kill Rand.
Right, crafting Rand into the perfect broken savior is more important than snuffing out this particular iteration of his existence. And then, yeah, Perrin asks, you know, this choice, why don't we make it? It's not our choice. Which, you know, I have my issues with the fate of the world being contingent on someone else's innermost personal revelations, but that is the cosmology we are working with.
Yes. And it reminds me of Neverending Story, when the Empress needs a new name. And Atreyu goes, well, I'll give you a new name. Let me pick you a name. And she goes, it doesn't work like that. It has to be a human child. It has to be this special person has to make that choice. And again, and a lot of fantasy comes down to that. What's the choice you make in the moment? And I like that because to me, life is a series of, now, and a lot of times in fantasy, there is one choice, right? And life is not one choice. Life is a series of choices that you make over and over and over and over again. But every time I'm confronted with that choice, I have an opportunity to say, what choice would I make in a fantasy world? What choice would I make if I'm looking at these idealized circumstances? And to me, that's what fantasy is all about, is putting yourself in these extreme circumstances where you have to make the choice between trying and despair.
Right.
And giving yourself reasons to try.
Right.
And because every day you wake up and you have to go to work, you have to do the dishes, you have to do laundry, you have to give yourself reasons to try over and over and over again. And I feel like that's what I get out of fantasy, is these reasons to try.
Right. Yeah. We don't literally have the world hanging on our shoulders, but we have our world hanging on our choices.
Exactly. And so many, even the little choices you make when you interact with people and how you treat them and how you respond to the people in your world, those are choices you're making.
Yeah.
And that's where empathy comes from. That's why people who read have empathy, because they think about the consequences their choices have on others.
Right. You're like, well, if I'm in book 1 of my story and I want something cool to happen in book 4, I should probably treat this apple seller nicely. because, I'm going to need them in book 4.
No matter how much the real world doesn't work that way, right? Like in any way, shape, or form.
Except when it does. Except when it does. Like,
yeah.
magic is real, to quote Michael Livingston. Like, there is a magic in this world that is much easier to find when you have fantasy brain and you're looking at the world that way. It's a lot easier to find.
Right. Yes, Vuji, also having other, just in terms of the mechanics of reading, having lots of POVs helps you switch from, I'm in the villain's head, I'm in the hero's head, I'm in the anti-hero's head.
Right, yeah.
I'm in the victim's head, right? Like you get to train yourself to be in other POVs as well.
Yeah, it's a nice, safe, pretend space in which to try out all these different roles in a given dramatic situation and kind of figure out for yourself how you feel about existing in those different roles. And that's the optimum outcome from reading a whole bunch of cool, awesome books. It seems like some people may have missed the memo somewhere along the way, but a lot of us have, and it's great. Exactly, Marzipan. Oh, not all people think like me. What? It's helpful to do that in big cosmic battles instead of, the messiness that is real life. I was actually thinking about this the other day. I was reading a description of a book I read as a kid, describing it to someone, being like, yeah, there was this book that I read, blah, blah, blah. And I went and read the, wiki description of it. And it was such an overly simplified analogy of the world. It was this book about how the United States, like evangelical Christianity, had been replaced by this cult of thinness. And there was like a 1-to-1, kind of swapping of basic Christianity as we do it in the US and like CrossFit, basically. And it was just very weird. It's overly simplified, but they were able to make a really interesting point about body image culture as it exists currently by having this very overly simplified other version of the United States where it's like, we would never all collectively shift that hard into one thing. Like the state is never going to like use terrorism to make us all obsessed with our body image. But like, it was a really interesting analogous sandbox for them to just like play with that. Cause it was a very YA, like super emphasis on the Y of the YA part that it was written for. And it was just like, this is so overly simple and yet so effective because it is absurdly pixelated from reality.
Well, and sometimes that's where it's worthwhile creating a fictional United States.
Right.
So you can simplify without and ignore all the complexity that is in a real world country to make your point.
Yeah.
Because you have the fictional United Eights.
Right. Ton DC.
Yeah, exactly. You can do all the same things. But, it's just, I think fictional worlds are a great place to explore. I mean, I was just reading that the whole point of not the Outer Limits. What came before the Outer Limits?
The Inner Limits? I don't know.
Twilight Zone. Jesus Christ. Sorry. The Twilight Zone. The whole point of the Twilight Zone is basically the person who created it wanted to create shows about civil rights, and he couldn't get it on the air. So he said, okay, well, I'll make it about aliens and other planets and alternate universes and just talk about those civil rights. Because it was, the 1960s, right? Like, I'll talk about civil rights on other planets, and that way I can get my content on TV.
The Twilight Zone's set on other planets?
Well, or, alternate universes, whatever, every episode's different, right? Every episode is...
Because I was thinking, like, Star Trek has the other planets to talk about civil rights franchise locked down. That's what Star Trek was doing.
Well, I mean, and a lot of sci-fi does that. That's why sci-fi
enough.
Exists, Like, people are like, oh my God, sci-fi's woke. It's like, yeah, that's the whole point of the genre. Like, as a genre, it is woke. It is designed to talk about social issues on other planets or other realities so that we can talk about those issues in isolation without worrying about all the subtleties and the details and the nuance when you're dealing with a real world country. It helps with the whataboutisms.
Yeah, which, if you really understand the deep lore of the mother of sci-fi and all that tracks all the way back to the very beginning, right?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, even Frankenstein, right? Like Frankenstein.
That's what I'm saying. Like she was making social commentary on top of, trying to avoid that annoying guy at the party. Like there's a lot going on there, It's like what I see a meme recently that's like, one level, like it's like the galaxy brain thing. And it's like, understanding that the monster was not Frankenstein. The next level, understanding that the monster was Frankenstein, right? Because it's like the monster, the creature is not named Frankenstein, but the
No,
true
it's
villain,
Frankenstein's monster.
who is the human who has done these monstrous, horrible things and is by extension a monster, is Dr. Frankenstein. That is the actual monster of the story, is the doctor who would have done such a thing.
Right. Frankenstein's monster is the victim.
But the monster is not. It's anyway. Yeah, sci-fi has always had things to say about people in power, whatever trappings we have to put on it to dress it up and make it acceptable to the powers that be. But yeah.
Some great visualization in this chapter about the peak and the storm and the darkness and the light. And I mean, it's worth reading because it is very visual.
And remember, too, that when we saw this from Rand's POV, it was entirely his internal experience, right? We were not seeing the externals. We were in his head thinking his thoughts. This is what was going on that he was completely oblivious of on a lot of different levels, like as Perrin comes up to this.
Right, because this is Teleron Riyadh. So this is the reality affected by the way people perceive it. Right. And I feel like that's why it's so hard to make changes in the world of dreams, because you're fighting the perception of every single other person who sees it the way it is in the real world. That's why it's hard to change things away from the real world, because you're fighting all of their perceptions with your perception.
Right, which is why it's easy to go head to head with one person having a fight, is because you are equally matched to the extent that your wills are present in the space. 100 to 1 is going to be a very different thing. And Rand, of course, being who he is, he's not even in the world of dreams, right? He's so strongly having this experience that the world of dreams is registering him as like a thing.
And this is where we go back to Rand is one with the land, right? He's the world of dreams is affected by the land, and the land is experiencing this turmoil mentally.
Yes, exactly. And the storm is so intense that Hopper literally can't go with Perrin all the way up, right? Perrin is doing an abnormal thing by being able to punch through, and I think that has a lot to do with him being Ta'Viren and connected to Rand. Like, Hopper gives up, like, well before Perrin gets anywhere near the peak, and Perrin feels compelled to witness, and the pattern allows him just enough strength to be able to witness this. Like, someone has to. I don't know why he's so compelled to do it, except that it has to be done. Someone has to see it.
Yeah, I mean, in the same way that like marriages should be witnessed, right? Like,
right.
Yeah,
everyone's going to see Rand after, right? But Perrin actually is seeing him go from Darth Rand to Zen Jesus Rand.
Can I just read one paragraph and see if that reminds you of anything?
Yeah, go for it.
Rand wore a coat of black and red, fine and ornamented with a sword at his waist. The winds didn't affect Rand's clothes.
I clocked that too. Yep,
Those fell unnaturally still, as if they were just a statue, carved from stone. The only thing that moved was his red hair blowing in the wind.
Sounds like a Myrddraal to me.
Sounds like a Myrddraal to me, right? He is out of reality. He is in the deep and the depth of his despair and blackness, and he is taking himself out of reality, and he is not being affected by the winds that are blowing. His hair is. So the winds are blowing.
That's what's trippy to me, is his clothes don't respond, but his hair does. That's odd to me. Why does his hair get to be in the real world, but his clothes don't?
Well, he's still got that sliver of light in his head, right? He hasn't been completely converted yet. So sort of think of the black bubble closing around him, and his brain is the last thing that's resisting, because that's where the origin of the golden light comes from.
His hair is the antennas that his soul is still poking out of?
Absolutely. Also, it's anime. Like, how often... This is absolutely an anime thing, right? The anime character just stock still with their hair, because they can animate that really easily with just the moving hair.
Because that's how animation tech works. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
No, that's true.
You cannot read these chapters without going, this is deeply affected by anime.
Yeah.
And when you ask, why is something happening, the answer is often anime.
Right. And I'm a person who has watched like a single digit number of anime things ever in my life, and I could recognize that. It's very obvious.
Yeah. And I will say I watched a fair amount in high school 20 years ago, and so the anime that I reference when I talk to people who are currently anime fans, they've never heard of it, because it's very old to them, even though to me it was classic, really good anime. And now people are like, yeah, that's what? No, that's like old. We have a whole new genre that we watch now.
Oh, I like what Marzipan says. His clothes are a trapping of reality. His hair is part of who he is. Okay. All right.
okay.
I'll
Sure.
accept that. That's a more poetic way of putting it than because anime. Even though both are true.
Both are true. But in this, the idea that he's out of reality in the same way that a Myrddraal is, because he's affected by the same darkness. He's touching the true power. He's, not real in certain ways. Because the Dark One has him. And then, you got this something black began to spin around Rand. It wasn't part of the storm. It seemed like night itself leaking from him. So, and I think this is sort of the blackness that we see on his brain. This is a manifestation of that in Tel'aran'rhiod.
Right, because it's taking over his whole being, which in the real world means his brain. And in this world of dreams where everything is an analogy, it means his visual expression, his avatar.
Mm-hmm. The darkness continued to seep out like a liquid tar coming through Rand's pores, creating a miasma of pitch around the dragon reborn. Within moments, Perrin could barely see Rand through the blackness. It enclosed him, cutting him off, banishing him. The dragon reborn was gone. Only evil remained. And then, from the midst of the blackness, from the center of the uproar and the tempest, a tiny sliver of light split through the evil. Like a candle's glow on a very dark night, the light shone upward toward the distant sky, like a beacon, so frail. Avatar: The Last Airbender
Yeah.
does this exact thing where he's almost completely he's trying to convert the Fire Lord Uzai, and he absolutely tries to convert his soul. The evil takes over him all the way to just a focused point in his eye. Light sprays up out of it, spreads out, destroys the evil blackness. Happens in Neon Genesis Evangelion, right, with the robots. There's the three magi. You see that exact same thing where they're almost all dead. There's one little point of light left, and then it takes over and destroys the darkness. Anime. Like I can see this in so many of those things where it's like this one last little bit of light spreads. You think it's about to be snuffed, but it's the spark that defeats the darkness. And I'm sure there's tons of other examples that people could come up with. Those are just two I had off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's very visual, very classic.
A web of cracks appeared down the side of the shell of evil blackness, light shining from within. Another fracture joined it in another. Something strong was inside, something glowing, something brilliant. The shell exploded outwards, vaporizing and releasing a column of light so bright, so incredible that it seemed to sear the eyes from Perrin's head. Yeah, Rand goes Super Saiyan. I used to know how to say that word.
I never have. I only know how to say cyan, the color.
Yeah, that's it. Super Saiyan. I think that's how it's said.
Yeah, CYAN if you're doing color stuff. But
and then this return of sunlight, right? Perrin gets the sunlight on his skin for the first time, which is this sort of indication that Rand has broken through the cloud of the Dark One.
Right, and he sees Rand go from this angular, scary face to mouth open with the laugh before he fades and just leaves this beam of the first sunlight anyone's seen in months behind.
And then you get the last hunt begins, young bull, Hopper screamed, "We live! We live!"
Yeah, it's the hunt begins. The sun is here. Life will go on. Whether we live or die is irrelevant. We will continue. I think Rand even says in the chapter he thinks he hears wolves howling as he laughs. And it's Perrin was screaming at him to hold on. There's 100 wolves all cheering this moment. You heard wolves, dude. Wolves were definitely present for this.
There was a lot going on. No, and that's just a fun moment. I do wish the editing had allowed that to be in the first book.
Yeah.
I understand why it's not. I think it does weaken the whole structure of the trilogy, the way this is cut up. But it is what it is.
Yeah. It's an epic moment that maybe could have been handled a little differently in terms of timing, but hindsight is 20/20.
I feel like you cut way down on Perrin's storyline because there was a lot of repetition, and then you stick it in the previous book.
Yeah, but they couldn't know that until the previous book had already been published, and this one was 3/4 written. That was probably when they realized that, and it's well, too late now.
But of course, then we would have said Perrin's storyline is rushed. So
there is no winning with us.
There is no winning with us. We're going to be critical either way.
Yeah. Though I do, if we're done with the chapter, I do want to say in terms of winning, I want to give a special shout out to our listener and artistic episode art creator, Dr. Pants, for finishing
Yes.
all of the steps to becoming Dr. Pants.
Dr. Pants, not just pants.
Yeah, we've gone from regular pants to Dr. Pants, and the dissertation was in a while ago. We've seen pictures of the bound thing, but today or yesterday from when we recorded this was the actual hooding ceremony, and I just want to give an extra shout out because Dr. Pants makes all of the art for our episodes. If you follow us on Facebook or Instagram or in Patreon to get the RSS feed, you will see the art that this doctor has been creating for us forever and ever and ever. Well, not forever, since Lilijan.
I was going to ask if you had a timeline.
Yeah, no, it's been since Lilijan went off to Thailand, which I think was 6 months ago at this point. I'm actually not sure about exactly when, but yeah, they were sort of trading back and forth. And yeah, really appreciate all of that art getting made. And so yeah, I just wanted to give an extra shout out. Congratulations on the pod on achieving your doctor status. Congratulations. And other than that, we will see you all back here in January sometime. I don't know exactly when the feed will start up again because I have producer things to do behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. But we're taking at least 2 weeks off for recording, so expect a similar gap in episodes.
Yeah, we do have some bonus content that we're going to be putting in the feed to keep your paws buttered.
Have we decided that, are we officially going with the other thing?
Yeah.
The other project?
Yeah. I mean, in my mind, it's that ball is rolling in my mind. So.
All right. Okay. All right. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess this is a good time to say we're dropping a teaser for another project Radia and I are launching in the new year. The goal is the beginning of the new year, but just depending on how things get done, it might be a little longer than that. And yeah, we're giving you a little preview of it in this feed. So
expect that in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see you on the other feed because I'm sure you'll follow us over there. I'm sure you will.
Yeah, definitely will. Right. No doubt about it. You're going to want to hear our takes. Yeah. So well, tune in next week for an announcement about what it is.
Exactly. And yeah, stay hydrated and calm while you get through this holiday season. We will see you on the other side.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. What Spoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.